Falcons coming off a big win against the Buccaneers. Cowboys coming off against a loss against the San Francisco 49ers. Matchup that matters. What do you got here, Carmen?
This is going to be the matchup that matters with the Dallas Cowboys for the foreseeable future until it gets fixed, which is their run defense. And it kind of looked like it was better last game, but then they still gave up well over 100 yards on the ground. So it's Bijan Robinson versus this Dallas run defense. They have a 37.7 run defense grade. According, in PFF, that's 30th in the league. 20 tackles for loss or no gain, which is the fewest in the league against the run. They're tied for the most rushing yards per game given up with Carolina, 154.6, 30th in yards per play overall. So then you look at Bijan Robinson, 90.9 rushing grade, which is second in the league. That's something that is a strength for this Atlanta offense, and it is a matchup that can be exploited against this Dallas Cowboys team. It's abysmal. I mean, there's no excuse for how bad really this Dallas defense is overall, given that that was supposed to be the strength. And I know they've been without Micah Parsons and a couple of other pieces there on that side, but there's really just no excuse for letting up the exorbitant amount of yards that they are on a game in and game out basis.
Yeah, I think it has to be the matchup that matters here, because of sort of what you were saying, and it really is biggest strength on biggest weakness. I mean, just to give some more statistics, the Falcons in the run game, they're first in the NFL in rushing grade. And so it's not just the fact that the Falcons like to run the football and the Cowboys aren't really good at defending it. Falcons are excellent at running the football, and that is exactly how they want to win the football game. And they've been the best in the NFL at it with a 91.7 PFF rushing grade as a team. Bijan Robinson alone, a 90.9 rushing grade this season. That is second only to Derrick Henry. You mentioned how much the Cowboys have struggled defending the run. And I think people who listen to the show are probably like, oh man, we're kind of sick of hearing this. But until they're able to fix it, or at least raise the floor a little bit, it's hard to not point this out, specifically this week with a team that really wants to run the football. It's not just Bijan Robinson either. Tyler Algier has a rushing grade above 80 so far this season. So whether it's Bijan Robinson out there or whether they're subbing in Tyler Algier, there is no let up. There is no quit with this team. They're going to try to run the ball down your throat every single game. And so this one in particular, they got to be licking their chops about it. When it comes to the plus factor for me, I think that it's any receiver not named CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys, because it kind of has to be. I think that the Cowboys went into this season, and the way they, I think, navigated the offseason was that, oh yeah, we'll be just as good as we were last year. And that just rarely works. If you don't evolve, you normally get worse. If your roster for the most part stays exactly the same, if you didn't really try to elevate in one level or another, you're probably going to go backwards. That's insulting to NFL defensive coordinators to think that you could have a whole season's worth of tape, even for as good as it looked with the Dallas Cowboys last year and Dak Prescott, who was playing at an MVP level, for you to just say, yeah, now we're good. I mean, Tony Pollard, not on the team anymore. Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, not on the team anymore. We're good to go. We got Dak, we got CeeDee Lamb, we'll be fine. They are reaping what they sowed this past offseason. And now somebody has to step up other than CeeDee Lamb. When you look at CeeDee Lamb, by far the most receiving yards on this team, almost double the next guy, which is Jalen Tolbert. And those two players are the only players who have over 300 yards receiving so far this season. The last 3 weeks, CeeDee Lamb's at a threat percentage, which is a wide receiver usage percentage, which is a great stat that you guys can go see if you got a PFF Plus subscription. That's 40% is absurd. 40% is you are leaning on a guy way too much, even for a player as talented as CeeDee Lamb. It's got to be more diverse than that. So I think he's a plus factor in this one for me. Somebody other than CeeDee Lamb's got to step up for the Cowboys.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page. And I mean, if you look at even last year, when the Dallas Cowboys did have a run game with Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb still had 30% of the team's receiving targets, because that is the only reliable receiver that you have. He's the only weapon on the Dallas Cowboys now currently that defenses are afraid of. And this was something I talked at length about going into the season, about how there was not another person that makes the defense concerned, and therefore they can afford to spend all of their attention or pay all of their attention to CeeDee Lamb. It's wild to me that CeeDee Lamb is still as productive as he is, given the fact that he is the only thing that is propelling this Dallas Cowboys offense. And you're right, there has to be other guys that step up. And I know that Brandon Cooks was hurt. You do not have depth in that receiver room. So then I go to a guy like Jake Ferguson, who I thought was going to be a much bigger part of this offense because of how good he is in the receiving game, how much he can be used as a safety blanket for Dak Prescott on some of those short to intermediate routes. And he's tough as all nails to hell, whatever I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here.
Yeah.
But he literally is a really just solid, reliable player. He's not flashy. I'm not going to call him one of the best tight ends in football yet, but I think that he has that capability if you just feed him. So why are you not doing that? Because also, you don't have a run game to fall back on this year, and you knew that you weren't going to have one. And it's mind-boggling to me, the team building strategy by the Dallas Cowboys, and to expect all these different results just because you paid Dak Prescott. You paid Dak Prescott, but you need to invest in that. You don't need to have two rookies starting on the offensive line in front of him. Like, what are we doing, Dallas? I could go on and on about this for so long, Trev, because it just the argument that they have all these all pros or whatever on this team, it's like, first of all, a lot of those guys are on the defense. Second of all, you have two offensive linemen that were all pros last year, but then you kind of cancel that out when you put rookies out there, because then you have to kind of mesh all of that together. And then what do you have left on offense? Dak Prescott cannot do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. So I'm out on the Cowboys. I was out on them in the beginning of the year, despite the huge paycheck to Dak Prescott. I don't put it on Dak Prescott. I know he could play better, but I don't know what you want him to do when his only target is CeeDee Lamb, and that's what the defenses pay attention to.
I would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that Deron Bland is back this week, getting activated off of IR, led the league in interceptions last year, with 9, an absurd 5 of them returned for a touchdown. And so I'm not going to sit here and, expect that he's going to get another pick 6 in this game. It would be incredible if he did. But when you do look at the Cowboys coverage unit, they are bottom half of the league when it comes to coverage grade as a team and the total interceptions that they have. So getting Bland out there is going to help. And sometimes it is those one possessions that you could maybe swing in your favor and getting a turnover that can mean all the difference in the world. On the Falcons side of things, don't mean to be short about them. They have won 4 out of the last 5. They are rolling. If they win this game, they're at New Orleans, and we'll see what New Orleans can be. We'll preview them in a second here. But this is a really good stretch of games here for the Falcons, and they're certainly, creating some distance between them and the next team in the NFC South, especially with the Buccaneers being as beat up as they are. So big week for the Falcons to continue to up that lead that they have in the NFC South, that they could look convincing once again in this one against the Cowboys. But kind of sounds like we both believe that could be the case.